If you're lucky enough to have a washing machine in your caravan, one of the challenges of using it is when you're free camping. Generally speaking, the caravan washing machines will basically empty an entire water tank if you go through a full cycle, but there are ways and means around that. One important point to remember is where that water coming out of the washing machine is going to end up. So have a look underneath your van from behind and see where your water's going to flow, and do whatever it takes to make it go that away from your van and not underneath your awning. Alright, so I've just been down the river and filled up this jerry can. It's up to about here. This is a 30 litre can, so it's a little bit more than the 15 litres that I require for the medium load in the washing machine. I've just whacked this tap in the bottom of this container. Normally I don't bother, but it's going to be a little bit difficult to film tipping it in to the machine from the top, so I'll just sit it on the bench and drain it in. You'll see that the water, although the water down at the river looks pretty grubby, you'll see in here it's very clean. Now that's not to say that it doesn't have any germs and bacteria and stuff like that in it, but that's not the point, because I'm not drinking it, I'm only washing in it, and that is the entire point. You can use that river water for any purpose other than drinking. I won't drink out of it. Plenty of people do, but I don't drink out of any source that I'm not 100% sure of, and it's not an actual potable water source. We do have a water filter, portable water filter, like a plug-in thing that we can use, but I don't think we've ever used it because we've always managed to find potable water. So yeah, so we'll go and stick this in the machine and we'll go through that. Alright, we've got an inverter in our van which is in the tunnel boot underneath the bed here, which is accessible from the outside hatch on that side of the van, and it's wired directly to this dedicated single power point here, which we've labelled and that, so there's no confusion as to what that's for. And that even the problem with that and the safety sort of aspects of that are that you've got, if you don't label it and somebody's working on the van and the inverter just happens to be left on, which we generally don't do, and they disconnect the van from mains power, they may think the van is actually got no 240 volt in it, but this power point would be live, so it's appropriately marked, so there's no confusion as to whether that's whether it's a general power point in the caravan, or in our case uniquely for the inverter. Our washing machine uses about 240 watts at 240 watts at 240 volts. It's a 240 volt machine, obviously, and you can run it through any inverter. And this one's a little tiny PowerTech 400 watt inverter. That's 400 continuous watts inverter. Like, it's tiny. I think it cost me, I don't know, 50 or 60 bucks from you know, J-Car or one of those types of places. It just plugs into a cigarette lighter outlet, which you'll have all over your van, and that will provide you with 400 watts of constant power. And the washing machine's only drawing 240 or something like that. So this thing's quite capable of running it without any problem. So you don't need to go to the trouble of wiring one in and so forth. The one out we've got there is quite large. You know, can run hair dryers and all that sort of crap. So we don't generally use the inverter for much at all. So when we do use it, we run a lead from this live power point, unplug the washing machine in the bathroom, and run it from the extension lead. So we'll rip that in now. Alright, power's turned on, the inverter's turned on. I'm going to crack the top of your canister, otherwise the water's not going to come out properly. Won't talk too much while that's going on. I'll just I'll fill this up and I'll come back. Alright, while you weren't looking, I just took the top off the drum and chucked everything in. Anyway, so we've got about just over 15 litres of water. I think before I said 15 litres was a half load or a medium load. 15 litres in this machine, which is a 3 kilo, is a small load. Then 20 is a medium load, 25 is the large load. So it's just a matter of put your smalls in there. We use wool mix because wool mix is quite a mild detergent, and it's supposed to have a neutral pH, so you don't need to rinse. That's the whole joy of doing it this way. So we don't have a rinse cycle, it's only wash, and then don't put a huge amount of soap in, huge amount of the wool wash in. You can make up your own. There's a Martha Gardner recipe for rinse-free wool wash, and that'll wash everything. Just search that online, you'll find it, I'm sure. So yeah, so only a wash cycle, not a rinse cycle. It's very important at this point in time, turn your water tanks off, turn the pump off, because the machine itself doesn't have a pump of its own. It relies purely on mains pressure or pump pressure. So you don't need to worry about turning your tap of the washing machine off or anything, because if you turn your pump off, all that will happen when it comes time to filling the machine or trying to rinse, it'll just open a solenoid, and that's all. And the solenoid doesn't need water. It won't burn out. It'll be fine. It'll be happy enough to not have any water running through it. But the trick is to, when we turn it on, cycle through. In our case, we can cycle through until we get to wash, which is about a 15-minute cycle, and it takes 14 minutes to wash. And then after it's finished washing, then we'll change that to spin and skip rinse. Just put it on spin and it'll dry the clothes. And so all we're using is about 15 litres of river water. Now you can use your own water from your own water tanks if you have on your washing machine a wash cycle, or you need to keep your eye on it. As soon as it's finished washing and it starts to rinse, turn it off. And then in our case, if we did that, we'd only use 15 litres of water from our water tanks. But while there's water around, non-potable water, you might as well use it and keep your potable water for yourself. That gives you the opportunity to stay out and about longer. So that's ready to go, and we'll start that up. Whoops, turned it off instead of starting it. Whoops. Oh, needs a bit more. Oh, hang on, stand by it. It's gone pear-shaped. Got to put it on low. Wash, start, and there we go, off she goes. Now we'll get out of here. One other important point is probably worth noting. One other important point that's probably worth noting is while you got your pump turned off, before you turn your pump off, fill your kettle full of water so you can have a coffee. Because you're not going to have any water until the washing machine's finished and you turn that pump back on. Now the power that it draws, 235 watts is our machine, and with the conversion losses going through an inverter, you're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of about 24 amps out of your battery per hour. That's the conversion. So 24 amps per hour. A 15-minute wash is a quarter of an hour. Ooh. And so that would mean somewhere in the vicinity of 6 amps. Now we've got 260 amps of battery power, so 6 amps coming out of that for a wash is not going to bother us at all. And the reason why I'm doing it today is because I'm heading home tomorrow, so I want to wash everything before I leave to go home, so I don't have to do it when I get home, or Barb doesn't have to do it, which is probably more the point. And it's quite a nice day. It's really sunny. There's a bit of a light breeze, so if I hang it out now it'll dry and we can pack it all away before I leave. Alright, the washing machine's just beeped. It's just finished its wash. So now we just turn it back on again. Go to spin. Just now you won't want this coming out under your moccasins while you're sitting out under the awning. You'll get in big trouble if it does. Whoop. Alright, clean socks, jocks and other things that we don't talk about, and without using one drop of our potable water that we carry on board.